Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and the next build I've decided to take on in a totem fashion is, you guessed it, Frostblink Totems. One of the final frontiers of Totem that I think has a chance to still kind of work, but is immensely hard to make work. I've tried all kinds of totem builds in the past, plenty were very strong, some were extremely meme, in the form of like lightning warp and flame dash totems, but you could get that shit to work to some extent. Frostblink totems, however, had the huge drawback of sharing a cooldown with the Frostblink cooldown of yourself, and then the totems themselves have that Frostblink cooldown. So essentially, you have to get the cooldown really low through various techniques to make sure that you can place your totems often enough, and then also that the totems themselves come off cooldown for their Frostblink as quickly as possible. So with enough thought, I finally decided I think this is worth trying, and we can get the totem cooldown from its base of like 3 seconds to maybe close to half a second when it's near rare or unique enemies. So that means that they will end up ping-ponging between the boss several times, just with a slight stutter and delay, as seen here, while taking on the current Itsiri nothing content just after being freshly level 70 or so. So still in dog shit gear, you know, a few little interesting pieces here or there, but it's starting to look like it can do some damage. It will probably be the worst build in the game you can possibly play to clear things with, because the totems themselves are kind of buggy. It's not that they're like buggy, it's just that they work in a certain fashion that is unavoidable for us. With Frostblink, the Frostblink won't be targeting anything that's too close to itself or that is standing next to a wall, because it's like, oh, I can't hit that. So placement becomes extremely difficult, extremely important, and a lot of the time, the totems you place, I'm going to say something like 70% of the time, won't do anything, depending on the location that you're placing. If it's too close to the enemy, if it's too close to a wall, if the enemy's too close to a wall, it's pretty dog shit. But that's for me to worry about and for you to just enjoy. So this will be a build that I might try and go somewhat all out on for like currency wise, and don't really give a shit how unique an item is, because I'm just going to try and make this work, right? And no one needs to copy this, because what the hell is this? So as you can see, you place down some Frostblink totems, and there is a cooldown, so it's really hard to even get them down to begin with. And multi-totems doesn't work because you can't place 2 totems at once due to the cooldown, so you can only place 1 totem at a time. And then hopefully they blink through, they freeze some shit. There is a chance for the area of the beginning and destination of the skill to overlap, so potentially with enough area, I think, or with a large enough boss, you can actually double tap from 1 totem for each attack. So there's potentially some strong, crazy interaction there. But overall, you can see it's kind of working. It's pretty damn good for Harvest, for example. Put down our totems, and since they don't need cast speed, one of the actual perks of the build, then they just instantly flick to the enemies because it's an instant skill, and you don't have to build into cast speed, and it can be somewhat safe against some of this shit. I'm going to forego all sorts of defense and life and everything in favor of just trying to get this thing to do damage and kill some endgame bosses, and we'll see how it goes. But this is the current playstyle of like running a map. Got to place a totem here or there, and then they blink through, and hopefully they hit things, but they do have a pretty short range. They're like based off of totem range, and there's nothing we can really do about it, so we do have to constantly place some, and in the right places. But so far, hey, it looks like more of a build than I ever thought it could be, and I think that probably bossing and single target damage will be our forte, but the clear is going to be slow, painful, and ultimately not at all good. So with that, let me show you what I've got for the character so far, and then hopefully in the next couple of days, I'll get it all the way through the game. So there's our current character, level 79 Hierophant, Pepsicle sticks, it's an emote in chat, Pepsicle, and sticks. And it is based around the Frostblink gem. In this case, it is Divergent Frostblink. So it's an alternate quality that gives you increased cooldown recovery rate for rare and unique enemies. So anything that increases the cooldown recovery rate or decreases the cooldown of our skill is essentially a more damage multiplier for our Frostblink Totems. So as you can see, currently it's 1.09 seconds, but that does not factor in the rare or unique enemies nearby. So another 144 cooldown off of that. And to get our cooldown from the base of 2.5, it says, base duration is 3 seconds, cooldown 2.5. To get it lower, we are using Stampede boots that have 79 cooldown recovery rate of travel skills. They can have another anointment. So these boots are a little bit interesting. They will be anointable, so you can have more than just one anointment on your amulet. You can also put it on boots, and currently over here I've got Fleetfoot, which is cooldown recovery rate of skills. I might keep that one, not too sure. But as well as that, the boots also have your movement speed as 150% of its base value. What that means is you just basically have your base value of movement speed. As soon as you log in, that's your base value, right? It's then increased by 50%, and then you can't do anything more about it. So you can't use Quicksilver Flask, you can't use Onslaught, no movement speed's going to affect it. You are just running at a base rate of 150%, but at the same time, you can't be slowed less than what your default rate is here either. So interesting item for sure, but we primarily need it for that cooldown recovery rate. So that's the main thing there. We've got some cooldown recovery rate up here off the Fleetfoot at the moment. And then also Frostblink 30% increased cooldown recovery rate on the helm. Other than that, the items are pretty normal, I'd say. Running an Arn's Anguish to turn our endurance charges from Hierophant into brutal charges. So as you can see, we always have, to begin with, 4 minimum endurance and power charges, thanks to this node over here. But with the belt, we then have 4 brutal charges at all times instead. And you can actually just like snap your belt on and off to have an extra 4 endurance charges duration-wise. So we might be able to do that at the start of a boss fight or some shit. But as you can see, yep, 4 brutal charges. I'm going to spec into 1 more. And the point of the brutal charges is to deal triple damage. That ends up being 15% if I end up getting this endurance node here, which I think I might, and then spec into minimum endurance as well. Or rather, probably grab min endurance on a ring or some shit. Aside from that, pretty standard totem passive tree for cold skills. You can put any totem skill into this type of a thing. So in the end, you know, could play it out as glacial cascade totems or some shit like that. I think totems are in a pretty good spot right now for plenty of skills, and they're pretty powerful. But this is what we're working with so far. So you get 1 additional totem up here, 1 additional totem over here. So that is 2 totems. And then a shield can get another totem. So currently we have 4 totems, and we'll probably end up using a soul mantle, which is over here. A +2 AoE one. Got a 6-link it with Val Orbs and the crafting bench, so that I can have maximum damage, +2 AoE, and then put on another totem, so that makes us 5 totems, and then it gives us an extra link in the form of spell totem. And then we take care of the curse thing either through the Maven hat. You can use the series shield, but that's minus a totem, or I'll probably just run a curse flask full time, like I did at my previous Deadeye Ice Spear build. So currently what we've got going is Divergent Frostblink, Spell Totem, Empower level 4, Hypothermia, Crit Strikes, and Controlled Destruction. Take out Crit Strikes for Conk Effect at the moment, and ideally we won't be running Crit Strikes at all once my crit rate is where I want it to be. So I'm going to try and get maybe 7-8 power charges, see if that pays off with the Inner Conviction, and then stacking a few power charge nodes up there. Just so we can get consistent crit rate and consistent more damage going. Other than that, I'll probably grab a +1 int +1 cold amulet with Awaken Orbs, maybe a +1 power charge hat in the end. Yeah, got to figure out the rings as well. So the wand at the moment, +1 cold, Gonna have double damage while focus, and I'll probably put a double damage while focus there as well, because the name of the game is gonna be burst damage and boss fighting. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. That's probably all I'll say about the build for now, because there's still plenty I'm figuring out about it. But that's the concept, that's what I'm working with. And something I always thought was somewhat annoying, somewhat impossible, because of the way the cooldown on Frostblink here works. So you can only place the totem as often as the cooldown is down, and it means you also need totem duration, because if you don't have much totem duration from the Hierophant nodes, for example, then by the time you've placed your 4th or 5th totem, they're already like dying off. So I think there's some potential here, but certainly not a proper build, not anything you're going to be mapping with, because it's pretty fucking uncomfortable. But hopefully I can get it to do something, just like I did Flame Dash Totems. Flame Dash Totems actually end up killing bosses rather well, but hopefully this does something similar, or maybe even better. That's the character for now, that's the concept. Hope you guys enjoyed the little video. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.